Hi and welcome. My name's Emily Curran, Executive Director of the Old South Meeting House, and I am absolutely delighted to welcome all of you to tonight's program, Literary Boston, The Fife is Right. This is our 10th annual Old South History Quiz Show. 10 years ago, a whole decade ago, our staff dreamed up a great idea for a fun way to learn about Boston history. And we called our friend, historian and photographer Susan Wilson, to see if she might serve as quizmaster. She said yes, and for the past 10 decades, we've been having a grand time. Oh, 10 years, okay. I exaggerated a little. For the past 10 years, for the past decade, we've been having a great time. I am going to first introduce our team of panelists. We have two teams here. First up is Barry DeVinci. Barry became a docent for Boston by Foot in 2010, and since then he has been absorbed in the architecture and history of Boston. Barry feels like tours like the literary tour that Boston by Foot does promote our rich cultural history, making people aware of the incredible contribution Boston has made to the literary world. And please take your seat, sir. Next up, we have Sharon Shalo. Sharon is Executive Director for the Massachusetts Center for the Book. She served on the board of the Edith Wharton Society and founded the liaison between the American Literature Association and the Society for the History of Authorship, Reading, and Publishing. Her interest is particularly in late 19th and early 20th century women's publishing history with an abiding concern for the works of Edith Wharton. Next up, we have Henry David Thoreau, Mr. Thoreau is a Concord-based writer, naturalist, poet, and philosopher. Some of you may have heard of him. Please sit down. Next up, we have Lamerchi Frazier. Lamerchi is a returning champion, having served on a Fife is Right panel a couple of years ago. Lamerchi is the Director of Education and Interpretation for the Museum of African American History in Boston and Nantucket, and she is curator of the wonderful exhibit that is on right now at the Museum of African American History, Black Books. She is adjunct faculty for Pine Manor College and Bunker Hill Community College. Next up, Louisa May Alcott. Also known as Jan Turnquist, who has been executive director of Louisa May Alcott's Orchard House in Concord since 1999 and has portrayed Alcott and other literary and historic women since 1990. Tonight, she is Louisa May Alcott. And last up is Larry Lindner. Larry is the Boston Literary District Coordinator and a collaborating author and columnist. His books have ended up on the bestseller lists in the New York Times, Amazon, Barnes & Noble. His most recent book is Saving Baby, which came out to great reviews and has been called one of the best books of the year by Kirkus. And now I'd like to introduce our host, Susan Wilson. She is our quizmaster extraordinaire. She's been here for 10 years doing this program, and she's dealing with
She's not dealing.
She's dealing very well.
She's portraying Tiny Tim.
So Susan is many things. She's a photographer, she's a historian, she's the author of many books, and she is also the official historian for the Omni Parker House.
Which is how we got all those cool gifts.
She's the house historian, right? Is that your title?
Yeah.
So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Susan, and we're going to have a good time. Thank you.
Thank you. Could you put that on the piano? Okay. And lest we not forget, the inimitable Dan Moylan on Fife. Dan has been here how many years, Dan? 10 decades?
I lost 8 or 9.
8 or 9, okay. Is David here? David? Twinkos. Come on. You've done it, yes, it's a good thing somebody remembers. Okay. You sit there until I need you. Okay. Okay.
Always do what she said.
Yeah. Okay, so I'd like to, may I see the names of these two teams? I haven't written them yet. Oh, okay. Could Larry Louisa's and Lamerchi's team tell us what is the name of your team?
Beantown Book Battalion.
The Beantown Book Battalion. Okay. The 3 Bs. The Beantown Book Battalion, okay. And gang, could you tell me what your name is?
We are the Frog Pondians.
They are the Frog Pondians.
Thank you, Mr. Poe.
We will not pursue that now, but we will perhaps pursue that later. Okay. All right, so raise your hand if you've been here before. Oh, so I don't have to tell you how it works? Okay, I'll remind you how it works. Okay. First of all, my buddy David is going to come out here, and we're going to stand in front, and we're going to have a coin toss. And one representative from the 3 Bs or the frogs are going to come forward, and they're going to call it, and whoever gets heads is going to be the first team to get the question. Now, there is no shouting out by anyone, anytime, for any reason. Who was here last year? Do you remember our shouter-outer? We had someone who was so excited every time she knew an answer that she went and yelled it and we said, okay, eliminate that question. And so please, no one up here, no one out here, don't shout a question. Remember to raise your hands, okay, if you know the question. So we will decide who's going first. And let's say the 3 Bs are the ones going first. I will read, and for those of you who can't hear me or would rather read, I will also on the screen show what the question is. Team 1, having won the right to have that question, will confer, and then they have an option. They can either talk together and then have one person on the team say, this is the answer. If they get an answer, they get a hashtag, and they've got it, okay? If they confer and decide they don't know the answer, they will say, can I have a lifeline? And that's where you guys come in. If you know the answer, raise your hand high and go, me, me, me. Now, I have told them that you guys are very trustworthy, and you will not raise your hand unless you're 100% sure. In 10 decades of doing this, I can only remember once when a lifeline was wrong. Okay, these guys miss all the time, but you guys are awesome. Okay, so I just wanted to confirm. You know, raise your hand, say me, me, me. Why are you pointing at the mic? Oh, yes, and lovely Erica. Lovely Erica? Okay, lovely Erica has a microphone so that when it is you and when you've been chosen to give the answer, don't yell it out. She will come up and give you the lovely microphone, okay? All right, so now the third thing that can happen, okay, they can confer and get it right. They cannot figure it out and ask you and get it right, or they can get it wrong. That's the bad one. If they get it wrong, or if you get it wrong for them, you have to deal with them with that personally, then the next team gets the question. And then they get to do the same thing, confer, answer, or refer to you, okay? But no matter what, the second team, whoever that is, also gets the next question. And so they would be at an advantage because they would have gotten 2 questions in a row. Now that accounts for the bulk of the evening with 2 exceptions. There are 2 questions that you may have a little sign with you that says Fi or Huzzah. Okay. Fi means no. Raise up your Fi. Raise up your Fi. It means false, okay? This is old-fashioned true or false, okay? So Phi means false, huzzah means true. Hold up your huzzah, okay? Excellent, all right. There will be 2 times where it will be a team's turn, but they don't answer, you answer for them, okay? So they have to be quiet, and I will read the question, and you will see the question, and then you guys have to decide. And they look at you and say, they all say huzzah, it must be huzzah, or you're all idiots and we're changing the answer. But it will be based on whatever you tell them. So twice that's going to happen, okay? Now, there is one other different type of question, and that's sudden death. And tonight we're going to have 2 sudden deaths. And this is the section where it's a free-for-all. Okay, so there's going to be a question up there, and people are just going to raise their hand. And probably, at least, Erica, will you help me at that point to see what hand goes up first? Okay, if not, okay, and Ilse will as well too, and whatever. Okay, this will be a case where instead of working as a team unit, you guys are going to just raise your hand and say, I know the answer to that, okay? And if they raise their hand and decide they're wrong, they don't know the answer, they can also ask you at that point, okay? But please, again, don't shout out, okay? All right, so 3 bees and frogs. Can we have a member from each team come down for the coin toss, or the coin toss? Either one. You are flipping a coin from the Massachusetts Transcendental, I think. When was that? I don't know. 1930? I don't know. It's something like that. It's a really old coin and it's valuable. Don't mess it up. Okay. Okay. Yep. The Frog Pondians are going first?
They are.
All right then. Okay, cool.
So just make sure you point it right.
Whose was this?
Mine.
Was it?
Yeah. Okay. All right, cool. Is everyone ready? Frog Pondians, are you ready?
Yes.
Here we go. Here is the first question. Here we go. Here is the first question.
Did we win?
Okay. Yay, okay. Frog Pondians, here we go. In 2014, the city of Boston literally developed writer's block, much to the delight of all. Of what phenomenon do we speak? Okay, grab a mic and get really close.
Okay, we established the Boston Literary District, and we are the first literary district in the country, maybe in the world.
It is true. Sharon, would you like to elucidate? Or do you want Larry to elucidate? Okay. Larry, could you tell the story? I know you're really mad you didn't get this question, but I told you.
That's okay. So Boston is the first city in the country to have an official literary district, and I think the second city in the world. I think Madrid has one, but ours is better. And if you go to bostonlitdistrict.org, you will learn all about it. And that's the district physically. It stretches from Washington Street, the Old South Meeting House is in it, all the way back to Exeter at the library, and there's a little tail at the end that goes to the Boston Women's Memorial, and there are 3 women of letters at that memorial. So that's the district physically. But if you go to the website, bostondistrict.org, and click on events, you will see events like this going on almost every night of the week, almost every day of the year. There's a literary cornucopia of programming going on in this city that's been a little too underground, and everybody's been in their own separate literary silos. And what we're hoping to do, and this is a public initiative, is draw the literary minded together and say there's so much going on, here it all is, partake of it. And if you've been afraid of reading or a little uncomfortable with it, come learn about it, come see authors, literary types, people involved in promoting literature, publishers. So that's what the Literary District is about.
And you may notice that you're at the right place tonight. Unless you meant to go to Shock-Headed Peter, you were at the Fife is Right, which is tonight.
And it's
Okay.
a pity he didn't get that question, isn't it?
It's unfortunate, but you're going down.
Okay. In that case, 3 Bs. Okay, so the score is 1-0 because there's only been one question. Okay, here we go. Next question. Are you ready? 3 Bs. Samuel Sewall is often remembered as the only judge who repented for his part in the Salem witch trials of 1692. Among his other achievements was writing the first anti-slavery tract published in New England long before the abolitionist movement took hold in Boston. What was the name of that publication?
We need a lifeline. Before you speak, are you sure you know the answer?
Okay, what was the name of the publication, the very first?
Is it The Selling of Joseph?
That was the most obscure question you're going to have tonight.
Thank you, Susan.
Well, thank your lifeline. You owe her a piece of Boston cream pie, okay? Do you want to tell us anything about the selling of Joseph? Erica. She's going to tell us a little more. Are you doing interviews over there?
Well, I just know it was, I read Sewall's diary, and so I looked at, and also it was passed out here one time for another talk. And I just know it was the first thing written about slavery, and that's all I know.
Okay, all right. Sharon knows a little bit. You want to tell us?
I read Salem Witch Judge by Eve LaPlante. She lives in Brookline, and she is a descendant of Judge Sewall. There is a portrait of him in the House Gallery at the State House, and she very proudly took everyone from an event we staged there up to see the portrait. He also wrote about women's rights as well. He was a pretty advanced guy.
Cool. Okay. Anyway, so this was it back in 1700, where most of the abolitionist literature we're talking about 1829, 30, and on after that. And here, what he did was he took biblical stories and talked, the word he used was man-stealing as being very awful and against the teachings of the Bible, and if you were really a wonderful religious colony, you should not do that. And here's one handsome guy on the left. And I believe there is a copy at the Mass Historical Society. And here, by the way, this is what most people remember him for. He was one of the judges of the Salem witch trials. Here on the far right are the Salem witch trials. And in the upper left, do you know where that is? It's here, okay? That's the Old South because he was the only judge who a few years later said, oh, wow, I blew that one. It was a mess. I'm really sorry. And so he went to heaven and the rest didn't. All right, are we ready? Okay, so we're on to you guys, these guys. Okay, Frogpondians. Are you ready, guys? Yeah. Here we go. Next question. Which of the following women of literary Boston is not rumored to reside, this is a very tricky question, not rumored to reside in one of Tremont Street's colonial burying grounds? Anne Bradstreet, Mother Goose, Phyllis Wheatley, or Elizabeth Payne, AKA Hester Prynne? In other words, 3 of these are rumored and or are buried there, and 1 is not.
Well, it's not rumors. I have a request from some people in the audience if you could slow down your speech just a little bit.
Rumors. Oh, we have rumors.
Yes.
Okay, rumored or actually? 3 are actually and or rumored to be there, and 1, nobody even pretends.
I just want you all to know that we know this one.
One of these people is not there and is not rumored to be there. The others either are there or are rumored to be there. Is that clear? Okay, you want to do it, or do you want to do a lifeline?
I don't know, we're trying to decide. Let's just throw caution. Oh, you want to do a lifeline?
Yeah.
Mr. Caution. Okay.
Lifeline, please. Can I select the person?
You can select the person, but they're only, okay, yes, you can select the person. You should look over here because there are people over here.
Now, are you positive?
Well, almost positive. I can't say 100%, but my best estimation would be number 3, Phyllis Wheatley.
Don't we give the answer?
No, you deferred to them. You deferred to them. You do. This is a very tricky question.
Well,
Thank
we
you.
start with this too.
We think it's Anne Bradstreet.
Yay! Was that Remember Me to Herald Square? Okay. All right. Okay, so here's the rather complex answer, okay? All right. The reason it's rumored to be, okay, is that we know that Mary Goose's grave is at the granary, okay? But Mary Goose is not Mother Goose. Mary Goose is the second wife of Isaac Vergoose, who married Elizabeth Vergoose after Mary Goose died. Shall I go over that again? And so even though there is a goose there, there is not a grave for Elizabeth, and she may or may not be Mother Goose. It goes on like this, because in France and England, there are people who they claim are Mother Goose. Plus, her book of poems, even though it's written about, there is not an extant copy. I could go on, but that's why there's all kinds of rumors about that, okay? However, she is rumored to be there.
But the takeaway point is that we got it right.
You got it right, yeah. Okay, now, over at next to King's Chapel, if you were to go, do I have a pointer on this thing? How do I do it? Little red thing? Little red thing? Little arrow? What little red thing?
Erica, what is going on? This one?
It's because we got a new good one. There you go. Oh, there we go. Okay. Oh, the little red thing. Yeah. Okay. Here's King's Chapel over here. Okay. So you walk in here, go down here to this wonderful tomb. Anyone know what that is? It's a subway exhaust, right? Okay. So you go by there, and then you go here, and then you go right there. Okay. And then if you go right there, you find Elizabeth Payne. Notice that thing that might not be a heraldic A. That's what some people believe was the inspiration to Hawthorne for Hester Prynne. Okay, so for years, there's been a rumor that that's Hester Prynne's. Okay, so there we have the second rumor of someone buried there. Now, as for Phyllis, which many people wanted to guess, here's the deal. Nobody is sure where Phyllis Wheatley is buried. However, regarding rumors, okay, she was a member of what church? Okay? And so the rumors have abounded for years. In the upper left-hand corner of the granary, there is a group tomb for the Old South where people who couldn't get their own tombs could be buried. And so there is a rumor that, in fact, she may well be one of the hundreds of people buried, or dozens at the very least, buried there. But we don't know for sure. But it is a rumor, and that's why she may be rumored to be there. Okay? But the last one, Anne Bradstreet, lovely poet, North Andover. Okay? All right, so that was a very tricky question. Nice going, guys. Okay, whose turn is it now? Okay, on to the 3 Bs. Are you ready, guys? All right, I shall read this aloud. What Boston-born author derogatorily referred to Beantown's literary elite as Frogpondians? Did you need to think for a while?
We think it's Edgar Allan Poe.
All right then. Sorry you didn't get that, Frogpondians. However, anyway, so here's that handsome devil. Guys, do you want to explain why he called the literary elite of Boston Frogpondians? I mean, he was born in Boston.
Didn't they sort of reject him, so he rejected them back?
It's hard to say where it started.
Yeah, but that new sculpture of him at the corner of Boylston and Charles, where he's going like that, like he's doing that to the Frogpondians. He's doing it back to the Frog Pond. That's very intentional with his dismissive hand wave.
Okay, and so here's some pictures. People, for years, a fund has been collected to create a statue for him, and it is on the corner of, it's basically Charles Street, the extension of Charles Street and Boylston, which used to be Carver Street, which is where he was born. And this is in October. There was a grand opening. He seems tiny to me, but that's because he's life-size. Life-size is so tiny. Anyway, so these are the various people grabbing on him. And as Larry was just mentioning, whoops, oh, no, woo! You didn't see that, right? Okay. All right, anyway, so as you can see, he's actually walking towards what would have been his birthplace, and he's walking with the frog pond on the common behind him because he has such disdain for these Frogpondians. And we got the raven, and we got, in the back, there's a heart falling out of his book, and it's pretty bizarre, or his box, and also he replicates the raven with his way his coat is going, and Stephanie Rocknack was the sculptor of this. But anyway, if you haven't seen it, go down to the corner. Yes?
He had a reputation for being rather degenerate very often, and he was kicked out of a club on Beacon Hill, on Beacon Street, 42 Beacon Street, and they kicked him out, and out onto the street, literally, stumbled across the street with two of his friends, and he turned around and he referred to those people up on Frogpondium. And they live in the area of the Frog Pond, and he was going down to the pond in the park thereafter, where I think he collapsed.
In a drunken stupor, or something like that.
Well, the fact of the matter was that Mr. Poe was never very fond of the Brahmins or the Transcendentalists or the other writers that were coming out of Boston and Concord. For Concord's part, Mr. Emerson called Mr. Poe the Jingle Man.
Yeah.
Now, Mr. Thoreau, did you ever meet him? Did you ever meet Poe?
No, not at all.
Oh, okay. Did you want to?
No, not at all.
Oh, okay. All right. All right then. Thank you. All right. The next question is going to be a Phi or Huzzah. It is the Frogpondians question, and you will vote on it, but they get to decide whether they go along with your vote or not, depending on if they agree with you or not. Okay, are you ready? On July 4th, 1845, Henry David Thoreau went to the woods in Concord in order to live deliberately and to work on a book. That's true. There's no question about that. Here's the Phi or Huzzah section. The book Thoreau wrote in this tiny Concord house became known as Walden, or Life in the Woods. So your question, this is the team doing it, your question, put it up. Do you think this is true, or do you think it is false? Oh, this is the closest to 50-50 I've ever seen. Wow. Wow. Okay, so Frogpondians, you can see here, without an official count, that they are really split. And therefore, you guys get to confer and tell us what you think.
We don't have to talk, do we?
It is false.
Mr. Thoreau, could you explain? Because, gosh, I thought that was the book he wrote about his little stay at Walden Pond.
The book that I was writing at Walden
Pond
was my first book called A Week on the Concord and Merrimack Rivers, which was published in 1849.
And Mr. Thoreau, why were you working on that book? What inspired it or brought you to?
In 1842, my brother John had passed away from lockjaw, In the summer of 1839, he and I built our own rowboat. We rowed up the Concord and Merrimack rivers to New Hampshire. The book that I was writing at Walden Pond was a tribute to my brother John, and the book is dedicated to him.
Okay. And then later on you thought of this, right?
Yes. That was my first year at the pond. I also wrote a lecture called A History of Myself. That lecture eventually became the first chapter of Walden.
Excellent, excellent. Okay. 3Bs, you ready? Okay.
That's another point for us, by the way.
It is. Yeah. Oh, yes. Ilse's, yeah, not even a little problem. Can I, Mr. Thoreau, while we're there, I understand that you're going to die when you're 44.
I may, yes.
You may.
Maybe
Or in another 45 minutes.
Could you explain why, this is an image of you when you were younger and older, why you look so old for 44?
Tuberculosis.
Tuberculosis.
Consumption.
Ah, okay. All right, thank you. Here we go, guys. The Boston Public Library, the first major free municipal library in the nation, opened its doors in Copley Square in 1895. This was not its first home. Originally located on Mason Street in 1854, the library spent most of its intervening years at what location before moving to Copley?
We need a lifeline.
Okay, hold on, the mic's coming.
I believe you could take a Boston Public Library tour every single day of the week for free from a tour guide, and they would tell you that we went from Mason Street to the site of the Colonial Theater today on Boylston Street near the Boston Common, and then out to Copley.
Thank you so much. We were dying.
Okay, so before our very, very fabulous McKim building was built in 1895, the library for I guess about 3 decades, was where the Colonial Theater is today. And this wasn't any like kind of temporary little building, okay? It was actually really gorgeous, and if you want to look inside, that's the guys that founded it. That's the guys reading books there. Anyway, that was the hall inside, and curiously, does anyone know the name of the big reading hall at the library today? Bates. This was Bates too. Okay, so this was, Joshua Bates had given him a bunch of money beforehand. So this was no slouch intermediary thing. The other library was even better, but this was an awesome place. And so this was Bates Hall on the Boylston Street thing, okay? And this is our Bates Hall today. So, and this, of course, is our library today.
Susan, what year was that Boylston Street building? Because that room looks so much like the Athenaeum, the one that was where the Colonial is.
Well, okay, this one?
No? Yeah, that one.
Yes, that one. I can tell you that the Colonial Theater opened in 1900. So it was before, I don't know how long it was smashed up in between there. Okay, there was a short period where there was it was all obliterated, and they had a little temporary circus there, and that's where Mrs. Gardner used to walk the lions. It's another story. Okay, all right, here we go. Okay, we're on to the frogs? Yes. Okay. The Cambridge Center for Adult Education inhabits 2 Brattle Street houses with literary history. Number 42 was once the home of brilliant transcendentalist Margaret Fuller, and number 54 was the workplace of Dexter Pratt. What was Dexter Pratt's claim to literary fame? And if you don't know it, he does. Okay.
He was the village blacksmith that Mr. Longfellow wrote about.
All right, we're going to read this together. Are you ready? Under a spreading chestnut tree, the village smithy stands. The smith, a mighty man is he, with large and sinewy hands. and the muscles of his brawny arms are strong as iron bands. That was Dexter. Okay. Okay, and here are some early versions of that. This is actually Longfellow's handwritten version of that. And as you know, Longfellow's lovely house out on Brattle Street, it's only like a couple of blocks away from here are the two places, here are the two parts of Cambridge Adult Ed. Okay, so that is 42, and that's where Margaret Fuller lived for a couple of years. And this place, where I'm sure you've eaten sometime or passed by, that's Dexter's old village blacksmith shop. And these are drawings from that period. It was only one of the buildings that became 56, okay? Here, the lower left-hand drawing is actually by Longfellow. And then this is the tree much later, because as the street changed, they left the tree there. And then a delightful little story, when the tree finally came down in 1879, a bunch of Cambridge school kids got together and paid to have it carved into a chair, and they gave it to Henry as a gift. So the tree lives on. Nice going, guys. 3 Bs, you ready? Oh, I'm sorry. One other thing. Mount Auburn Cemetery, Longfellow and Dexter Pratt are both buried there. And they call it elitist. Okay, all right. When an aspiring female writer approached James T. Fields of the Old Corner Bookstore with a manuscript, he returned it to her and advised her to, quote, stick to your teaching. Miss Author. Who, pray tell, was the rejected wannabe author?
Louisa Mayo. I thank you.
You're welcome.
But I will tell you.
Oh, can you get closer as you tell us? Get closer to the mic.
There's a happy ending to this story, because years later, when Little Women had been published.
Oh, wait, Jan, here you are younger.
Pardon me?
Here you are younger.
I'm sorry?
Here you are, comma,
yes, there
younger.
There I am.
Okay.
Yes. I don't look as well since the typhus and pneumonia. You know, I was a nurse during the war.
Okay, you keep talking.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Well, I went back to Mr. Field because I had boarded with he and his lovely bride, Annie, and he had loaned me $40 to start my kindergarten, which I was doing because of Miss Peabody. And I repaid him and said I had decided to stick to my writing as it pays rather better than my teaching.
1868 blockbuster best-selling book in the world, I'm thinking. And Miss Alcott, I think this indeed is a quote from your letter, right?
Yes, there it is.
There it is. Okay. So he messed up. Okay. All right. Nice going. Okay. Can we have a midway score, Ilsa?
The triple Bs have 5 points, and the Francondians have 3.
Oh, all right. Well, luckily, we're in a period where we can rack up a lot of points because we have a sudden death happening. So, this is what I would like to do. No! She was wrong. I'm sorry. I flipped the page too fast. Yes, okay. You guys, it's your turn.
Yes.
We have one more question before sudden death. I lied. Okay, here we go. During his 1867-68 lecture tour of the United States, British superstar Charles Dickens wined and dined at the Parker House with a group that included some of the area's and the nation's most prestigious authors. What was the name of the group?
The Saturday Club.
Do you want to tell us anything about the Saturday Club, guys?
Yes. Guys, you said it. Guys.
Gang. Ladies and gentlemen.
No. They were guys.
Oh, right. They were indeed guys.
It was a group of writers from Boston and Concord, male writers from Boston and Concord. Only male writers. I wasn't part of it. Don't get mad at me.
That's right.
Thorough hated it. Thorough hated it.
I passed on the honor. It was Ralph Waldo Emerson, Mr. Longfellow, Mr. Hawthorne, I believe.
There's Mr. Holmes behind you.
Mr. Holmes, of course. And the last Saturday of every month, they would gather at Parker House to eat fine food and drink fine wine and smoke fine cigars and tell each other how great they were.
Mr. Thoreau really despised them.
I was asked to join and I passed.
No, I remember you saying something like that you hated the smoke there because they were smoking their cigars all the time, and that you would rather be in the men's room at the Fitchburg Railroad.
Yes, it reminded me of a smokehouse.
Yes, okay. And by the way, this is the gang on the left sitting there, the elite gang. And on the right is the Parker House as it looked at that time. And what's very interesting, it's not the same building as today, it's the same site. Here was the main part of the Parker House. Does anyone know what this was? No, it wasn't. The school had already left. This was Mass Horticultural Society. Okay, and my pal Harvey Parker bought it out from them. They moved. They eventually went down, to be near Symphony Hall, and so he bought it and demolished it, and then kept expanding there. Okay, now what I was threatening before. This is the part where we're going to have our first sudden death. Oh, let's get through these guys. There's Dickens, Dickens' mirror at the Parker House. Okay, banned in Boston. What we need, because we're going to do some readings to see if you can recognize some portions of books that were banned in Boston. What we need is volunteers. Erica, you want to take this?
Yeah. So we've got I've got 4 people now that have agreed to read. We're just going to have them come up to the front.
Yes.
Now.
Could people who have readings, could you come up? And we need one more person to do reading.
One more person.
What kind of person do we need?
Well, I would say, did I see a hand right there? Okay, Charlie. That'll be perfect.
Okay.
Yeah.
So could all the readers come up? And as the readers are coming up, I wanted to mention that there is a context for this. Boston has banned things from day one, okay? We started with the Puritan ethic. We banned Christmas because it was too papist or too much fun. We banned theater because it was lewd and rude. We've banned things forever and ever and ever. However, that term, banned in Boston, really after the Civil War, there was this group that organized in Boston called the Watch and Ward Society that really took it upon themselves to look at anything that was really terrible, like sex in books or sex in books. And also gambling, prostitution, things like that, and took it upon themselves to get this stuff banned. They were an extra legal body. They often would even get warrants and get the warrant written up and then give it to the police and make the police go and deliver the warrant even though the police didn't want to do it. And so they had a lot of power for a long time through the mid-20th century, easily. And a lot of books were banned. Curiously, the Old South is also sponsoring a series of movies on books banned in Boston on the big screen. There was one last week. There's this new program called Movies at the Meeting House, and since freedom of speech has always been a big deal here, having movies being shown here that talk about books that were banned in Boston is all a big thing. So please check that out. Look at your notes or look at various newsletters. But there is one coming up. Harry Potter was actually banned in a nearby, Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone was banned in Wakefield. Where's Janine? Where's Janine? Oh yeah, banned in Wakefield, man. Cool. Okay. Anyways, so check that out because we're going to, and also in October there's going to be Banned Books Week, so make sure to check that out. Okay, so do we have banned number 1? Okay. Could you please read it, and simultaneously I am going to show you this, and basically, Ilse, you're going to help me. The first hand we see, so we're going to watch for the first and the second hand, will be the person who gets to answer. Here we go.
Should I stop with the, okay. I celebrate myself, and what I assume, you shall assume, for every atom belongs to me as good belongs to you. I loaf and invite my soul. I lean and loaf at my ease. observing a spear of summer grass.
What was the first hand? Ms. Alcott.
Leaves of grass.
By? 2 points. Walt Whitman, Leaves of Grass. Awesome. Oh, yes, play. That's really cool. Okay. Are you ready for the second one? You ready? Here we go.
You're an expatriate. You're an expatriate. You've lost touch with the soil. You get precious. Fake European standards have ruined you. You drink yourself to death. You become obsessed with sex. You spend all your time talking, not working. You are an expatriate, see? You hang around cafes.
Well, can I name the author first?
You get a point for the author.
Okay, so we're going to guess. Oh, we're going to guess Henry James. No?
Did we get their point?
Huh?
Did we get their point?
You don't get their point, but you get a point if you get it right.
Oh.
Did we lose a point?
You didn't lose anything, you just didn't gain anything.
No, you're done.
You can. Can you go for a lifeline? Yeah, and you do get 1 point each for the author and the book.
Anybody?
The reader?
Well, I mean, I didn't.
Okay, there is no information on his paper.
Yeah, we didn't.
Oh, so is that okay, guys?
What do you think?
Raise your hand if you think it's okay, the reader.
I think it's okay.
Okay, raise your hand if you think that's not good.
All right.
Okay. All right, reader.
My guess would be Ernest Hemingway, The Sun Also Rises.
What does he have to do with Boston?
It was banned in Boston, yeah. This doesn't have to be Boston authors. These are things that we banned. We banned this in Boston. Okay? You ready for the next one? Okay, anyone in the row, you ready? Okay, here we go. Banned in Boston, number 3. Go.
Not to worry, I do not know the answer. I've been telling myself that since the night I heard the child say it. I lie in bed night after night, praying that it isn't true. But I know about it now. It's there. I don't know how, I don't know why, but I did love it. I do love you. I resented your plans to marry. Maybe because I wanted you.
Louisa had a hand up? Now, Louisa, if you think you know it, you can answer it, or you can answer one and use a lifeline for the author or the name of the piece, the book. Or you can say, I really made a mistake.
Well, I just had this sudden flash of memory. I'm sorry, I can ask for one?
You can ask for a lifeline.
All right, I will ask for a lifeline. Everybody here is blank.
Why would anybody know these things? They're banned.
Yeah?
Is it The Children's Hour by Lillian Hellman?
Yes!
What?
Lillian Hellman, The Children's Hour. Whoa! Wow. Wow. Nice! Okay, here's the next one. You ready, number 4? Lillian Hellman, The Children's Hour.
Okay, listen closely. This is pretty hot. In the short summer night, she learned so much. She would have thought a woman would have died of shame. She felt now that she had come to the real bedrock of her nature and was essentially shameless. She was her sensual self, naked and unashamed. She felt a triumph, almost a vainglory. So that was how it was. That was life.
Ooh. It looks like we have a tentative Mr. Thorough. You want to do it or a lifeline?
No, I'll give it a shot.
Okay.
Is it Naked Lunch by William Burroughs?
Anyone? God, they did a good job of banning these. It appears we have someone in the back. Nobody's. Oh.
Participation at this moment.
Oh, it's just participate. Wait, should we give it? But you guys didn't ask for it.
We want a lifeline.
Oh.
Thank you for helping us.
Oh, if you know it, you do it. Because the only reason I was going to say it because nobody was saying anything. So I thought, well, okay, I can give it a try if nobody's going to try.
Just tell us the answer.
I don't know if I know the answer. I was thinking it was D.H. Lawrence, Lady Chatterley's lover.
Yes! D.H. Lawrence, Lady Chatterley's lover. Did that occur to anyone?
I keep trying to go for Massachusetts office.
Oh, yeah, no, this is what we banned. No. Okay, here is the last one. Are you ready? Number 5.
If I'm banned, am I supposed to have a gag over my mouth?
Yeah, like Margaret Sanger in the back.
Preacher Dunwoody's voice had risen shrilly. Suddenly he stopped, spoke more quietly. Well, that's youth, he said, and wiped his face with his big handkerchief. This world's full of young folks wanting strange things. Funny thing, he said, once you make up your mind to leave colored women alone and stick to your own kind, you soon get weaned.
If you know the answer, wink to me once.
Okay, so if you guys want a lifeline, someone has to raise their hand. They'll both get a point if their lifeline gets it. Is there a lifeline? Is there a lifeline?
Does anybody know this?
No. Okay, it's a toughie. Yeah, okay.
Uncle Tom's Cabin?
Good guess. Wrong. This was Lillian Smith's Strange Fruit, named for the Billie Holiday song. Lillian Smith's Strange Fruit.
Susan, do a good one.
Huh?
Do a good one.
You mean an easy one?
Yes.
The easy ones were the ones that didn't get banned. Okay, so a brief recap. There'll be a test later. Okay, so here we have, and these were the reasons for the banning. So we had our Whitman, explicit content, homoerotic tones. Okay, and here we have Hemingway, profane language and promiscuous characters. And then we have Lillian Hellman's Children's Hour, lesbian content and indecent storytelling. I have no idea what indecent storytelling is. Okay, Lady Chatterley, promoting adultery and obscene language. These are all bestsellers, you know. Okay. And Strange Fruit, lewd, crude language, and the big thing, an interracial marriage, banned in Boston. Absolutely. Oh, now unexpurgated, yes. But it's 50 cents and it's complete. Yeah, okay. All right. Okay, so that's just a sampler of the great band things. Okay, does anyone have any idea who was the last team to have a real question? Because I don't.
I think they were.
We have a lifeline, so we got an answer through a lifeline.
But was it before the band and?
You mean before the banned books?
Yeah.
I think they had the last question. I don't remember. No,
I
seriously.
thought they had the last.
Are we going to do another coin toss?
If you go back to your questions.
Okay, hold on. It was the Louise May Alcott question.
No.
Okay. Yeah. No, it was the Saturday Club.
Yeah.
So it is you guys next. Okay.
So
all right.
you're
Three
trying to
Bs,
cheat.
you're on. You ready? Okay, we're back to normal here.
So this is regular now?
Yes. Halftime score update.
So the triple Bs have 11 points, and the Frogpondians have 6.
Okay, Frogpondians.
It's all right.
Just saying.
Yeah. 2 questions, you got it. Okay. Here we go, because they're going to hate this one. What is the link between this array? Now, hold on, I will show you the array. This array of Houghton Mifflin book covers and the Lilly Glassworks of Boston, which produced quality stained glass windows that sometimes appeared next to those made by Tiffany and Lafarge. So what is the link between all of these book covers and a whole lot of really nice stained glass in Boston? What is the link?
If anyone wants a lifeline, there might be a handful of people here.
I'm guessing there's some lifelines here.
Well, I know. Okay, this is our question.
That's theirs. But she can be your lifeline if you want.
No. So I have a question before we decide whether to go for a lifeline. We know the link. We know what the link is, but we can't name the link.
Okay, get a lifeline.
Okay, we need a lifeline.
All right, anybody who was here for the stained glass? Yep.
Oh.
Sarah Wyman Whitman did the book covers, and her glass studio was the Lilly Glass Studio.
And she also designed a beautiful stained glass window in Trinity Church as well.
Absolutely. This woman, so look at these gorgeous covers. She was called like the mother of contemporary cloth-covered books because of her extraordinary design. She did more than 200 designs for Houghton Mifflin. And look, these are big shots. This is not little names. You know, we got Holmes and Sarah Orne Jewett and Lowell and Bret Hart and Longfellow, and who else do we have over there? Oh, Henry, you. Did you know she did yours? She did your Cape Cod book.
I never met her.
Oh, you were dead. I mean, right, okay. Right.
Susan, did she live on Mount Vernon Street on Beacon Hill?
Yes.
Yeah.
Would you repeat her name?
Sarah Wyman Whitman. Yeah, as you can see, she was shy. She was a multi-talented person. This is some of her stained glass. This is over at Trinity. This is at Harvard. And it's all over the place. And so she shares spaces with stained glass, with Lafarge, with Tiffany, whatever. But book covers were her thing. And here's a neat thing. Here's something the Athenaeum owns. This is the one piece that the Athenaeum owns. And look at that, that was her cover. This was it's not leather, it's the fuzzy leather. What's fuzzy leather? Suede cover for Uncle Tom's Cabin. So you can see the similarity there. She was awesome. She was a rock star 100 years ago. But we've forgotten. Okay, guys ready? On to the Frogpondians. You're welcome. Growing up in a wealthy, privileged, socially well-connected household, novelist Edith Wharton spent her life in all the right places and had the well-heeled characters in her novels do the same. Therefore, in her award-winning book, The Age of Innocence, 1920, she has Newland Archer pursue his old paramour, Countess Ellen Olenska, to the finest hotel in Boston. What hotel was that?
The Taj.
What did he say?
I said the Taj.
Oh. Where's Jim? Jim? Will you be a lifeline?
It would have to be the Parker House.
Of course it would have to be the Parker House. Absolutely the Parker House. And that is what the Parker House looked like when they were there. And you may wonder why it's changed. Yes?
And I was going to say
Could you speak into the microphone, please?
I was going to say that Newland pursued her from Newport, and they took a steamer up here from Newport, which is when I learned about water travel from the watering holes of the for
Just remember, if you're staying in the finest hotel, you're staying at the Parker House.
I thought, of course, Susan.
Of course. Anyway, this is what it looked like at that time when they stayed there. And indeed, it doesn't look like that today because it was considered very old-fashioned by 1925. The entire thing was razed to the ground, completely demolished, and the beautiful new building, square box that's there today, replaced it. But it's in the exact same spot, okay?
I just wanted to say, somebody
Yes.
mentioned the Somerset Club a little while ago.
Somerset was in the Frog.
And, Wharton would stay there when she visited Boston.
Uh-huh. Okay, 3Bs, you ready? Author Zora Neale Hurston was a leading member of a major literary and cultural movement in New York that drew in Dorothy West, a talented young writer who was born, educated, and first published in Boston. What was the name of the phenomenon of which they were part? In other words, what was the name of the literary and cultural movement in New York that drew in this young Boston girl?
We want a lifeline. We want the guy with the yellow hat.
The Harlem Renaissance.
Thank you.
While you're there, would you like to talk about the Harlem Renaissance?
Well, I don't know that much about it, but I do love Zora Neale Hurston's book, Their Eyes Were Watching God, and they have told part of it as a live story, especially the hurricane part.
All right. Well, for those who don't know it, here's a brief primer. Intellectual, social, and artistic movement that shined its spotlight on African Americans' historical and contemporary experience, and it included all kinds of things. Langston Hughes was part of it. He actually nicknamed little Dorothy West the Kid. She foolishly asked him to marry her. Anyway.
One of the
Get closer,
reasons that I didn't answer that is because phenomena threw me off. There were organized groups of writers and artists, visual artists, during the Harlem Renaissance who responded to social justice issues as groups. And so as they formed these groups, they would name themselves. And I was not sure of the name of the group that Dorothy West and Zora Neale Hurston would have been a part of. So I apologize to the other two BBBBs.
No, that's what happens when you know too much.
Exactly. I was going to say you're just way too smart. Okay. And here's a couple of other pictures. There's Zora Neale Hurston. And among the many wonderful things that came out of that, this is little Dorothy West. She didn't actually get famous during that period, during the 1920s. Her fame came a lot later, but she was nurtured within this movement. And this has nothing to do with it. It's just that her first writings were in the Boston Post. And she actually had, she wrote, so she didn't write about the molasses disaster. It was the only cover I had a slide of. I'm sorry if that's deceptive. But anyway, so she actually wrote for the Boston Post, which was on this block. And she actually wrote several articles and so was writing for newspaper. What are you pointing at? That was the transcript. Next to the transcript. So we have the transcript and then the Post. Okay. And then Living is Easy, one of her biggest names, collected works, etc. So again, she got very, very popular. And then in her later years, she spent a lot of time on Martha's Vineyard, and this is her in her later years. And she was touted as the last living member of the Harlem Renaissance. And that is true? Yes. Okay. Lovely, lovely, lovely. There was, yes?
Another Boston connection to Dorothy West is that Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis went to her to be the editor for, encouraged her to publish the book The Wedding, which was set on Martha's Vineyard.
Set on Martha's Vineyard, right. And I forget, what publisher was Mrs. Kennedy working for? Random House? Random House. Is that correct?
No, Doubleday.
I think it was Doubleday.
Doubleday, Viking?
I believe it was
okay.
Doubleday.
Doubleday. Okay. All right. Okay, whose question? Yes.
I mean, one more comment.
Yes. Get closer.
In the new view of the Harlem Renaissance, there is the concentrated effort to look at New York, Chicago, Detroit as the spread of the Harlem Renaissance in its rebirth. And the last writers that one may look at who are still, who were just passing would be one who was a member of Spiral, which was started by Romy Bearden, who was a visual artist, but he was joined by Gwendolyn Brooks, who was a poet, Margaret Burroughs, who started the DuSable Museum, and others who were still writing. I would say Gwendolyn Brooks expired during the last decade.
Got it.
And so when we talk about the Harlem Renaissance as a larger movement, we're talking about more than New York.
Great. Thank you, Lamerci. Thank you very much. Okay, who's on? Okay, Frogpondians, you ready?
Yes.
Esther Forbes won the Pulitzer Prize in History for her grand opus of 1942, Paul Revere and the World He Lived In. What was the name of her best-selling children's book based on the same historic era? You know everything.
Johnny Tremaine.
Could you repeat that?
Johnny Tremaine.
Could you say it into the microphone?
Oh, Johnny Tremaine.
Raise your hand if you read that as a kid. Raise your hand if you saw the Disney movie. Okay, Johnny Tremaine, basically, Esther had done so much work collecting to put together her Paul Revere book, which is still iconic, that she had all this leftover stuff and got interested in what it was like to be an apprentice during that period, so came out with this kids book that ended up winning the Newbery Prize and is still happening today. There's another version. Who was the guy who played that role? Hal Stallmaster. Is that right? That just came out of a Post-it note in my head. Okay, and doesn't she look like Doris's aunt or something? Doris Kearns Goodwin's aunt? Doesn't she? I don't know. So anyway, that's good old Esther Forbes. Yes?
Esther Forbes did a lot of her research and her writing at the American Antiquarian Society in Worcester, and she left in her will her royalties to AAS. And so she kind of continues to be a benefactor there. And actually, the house that she lived in was it was about in 2002 or 3 that it was torn down, right when we started doing literary mapping of Massachusetts. So it was like a lost opportunity to keep that house alive.
Darn. Okay. 3 Bs? Okay, here we go. Oh, it's you guys. Okay. Cheng Yi was a renowned Chinese author and artist who traveled the world in the 1930s, 40s, and 50s, writing books about various cities from his unique, charming, non-Western perspective. That's a fact. Fires are for you guys. His best-selling book about the hub was called The Silent Traveler in Boston.
We'll go with the unanimous vote.
Raise your hand if you really knew that. You really knew that. Raise your hand if you have a copy. I read it. I read it just last week. I'd had it for 10 years. I read it. You have 2 copies. Okay. This was a hot book. This was a big deal. I've had it on my bookshelf for 10 years. When we decided to have this question, which was recommended by my friend Stephanie Fenn, I went back and read it. And the whole first chapter is about Boston noses and how he goes through all the different museums and has decided that the Addams family nose is the Boston nose. It's fabulous. It's just fabulous. But this guy was world famous. He was best buds with Walter Muir Whitehill for like 25 years, who wrote all the Boston books, was the head of the Athenaeum, and you have something else to tell us.
I have the mic.
Oh.
Ken, I have the mic.
Okay.
Right now, there is an exhibit on the silent traveler on Zhang Yi. Oh, right now, there is an exhibit at the Suffolk Law School on Zhang Yi. The person who set up the exhibit is a professor at Suffolk. He did all his research at the Boston Athenaeum, and the Athenaeum has a big collection of all the illustrations, which Zhang Yi was also an artist.
He was an artist, he was a calligrapher, beautiful drawings.
Beautiful calligraphy.
Right.
And a lot of them are at the Boston Athenaeum, and they helped us to make posters, huge posters, very nicely made, and they're on exhibit at Suffolk Law School at the Adams Gallery, and it's open to the public.
Excellent. So if people were to Google Silent Traveler or Zhang Yi, they could find the details. Some of the books, he traveled around the world and wrote these everywhere. You guys are good. I couldn't believe that. Excellent. Okay, ready for the next question? Who's on? You guys? Okay, here we go. Poet, easy for me to say, poet Robert Lowell penned one of the most stirring poems written in Boston during the Civil Rights era, which he called For the Union Dead. What Boston landmark does this poem specifically reference? Don't talk to me.
It's the bronze relief right across from the State House, dedicated to commemorating the 54th Regiment.
Yes! It is about the Shaw 54th Memorial, and which is on the front of that, and there is Mr. Lowell of the Lowells. Phenomenal poem, phenomenal poem. Okay, guys, you ready over there?
Yeah, do you want to hear a piece of trivia?
I'd love to hear a piece of trivia, Larry.
Was it Governor Long or Governor Andrew who sent the 54th?
Andrew.
Okay. So Governor Andrew is buried in Hingham Cemetery, which is right off Hingham Square. And he was the first governor from any Union state to send the Black Regiment to fight for the Union in the Civil War.
Which came from Boston. Okay, sorry.
Came from Boston.
Okay, who's on? Here we go. British poet laureate Ted Hughes immortalized a Beacon Hill address in his poem 9 Willow Street. Why was this address significant to literary Boston? It's theirs.
I mean, we haven't answered. Are you looking for something phenomenally specific?
I'd like a couple of names.
Oh, okay. We can give you a couple of names.
Okay.
So that was one of the places where Ted Hughes and Sylvia Plath lived in during their stormy marriage. And
Wait, well, let's play a tune and then you can go back. As we were saying, Ted Hughes and Sylvia Plath.
Sylvia Plath lived there, and I don't remember the lines of the poem. I wish I had it in front of me, but they said things like, you know, we meant well, but our snakes crawled through each other's souls and bloodied them up. It's really a devastating account of their life together.
Larry, let me read this to you.
Okay.
Let me read this to you, Larry. Alone, either of us might have met with a life. Siamese twinned, each of us festering, a unique soul sepsis for the other. Each of us was the stake impaling the other. A fine, fine marriage. By the way, take a look at this picture and guess which one was the philanderer. It's so obvious. Okay, anyway. 9 Willow Street, by the way, there it is. If you're on Little Acorn, you know, with the rocks and stuff, just look right up. That's where the two of them lived and fought together. There they are, not fighting for a moment.
That was not the apartment with the oven.
Say what?
That was not the apartment with the oven.
And some of their works, the 9 Willow Street came out after her suicide, much, much after her suicide. And as we know, her suicide was blamed on a lot of things, but one of them was Ted. Okay.
The philanderer.
The philanderer on the left. Okay. Absolutely, go for it.
Sylvia pulled up to the Ritz-Carlton. The concierge says, "Madam, this is a loading zone." She said, "It's okay, I'm going to get loaded."
Okay, Larry wants to tell another story.
I think it was Ann Sexton who said that. She and Sylvia would go to the Ritz-Carlton together for drinks to have stingers and martinis. And Ann insisted on parking in the loading zone to the chagrin of the workers. And I think it was she who said, they said, "You can't park here, madam." And she said, "I have to, I'm going to get loaded." That's how I understand it.
Okay, so what a pair, Sexton and Plath. Here we go. Okay, who's next? You guys? Okay. In 1972, 35 book publishers turned down the opportunity to print this groundbreaking work in its entirety. Boston-based Beacon Press shocked the world by being the only book publisher in the US to agree to publish it. What was the controversial work?
The Pentagon Papers.
The Pentagon Papers.
The Pentagon Papers.
The
No
Pentagon
one else.
Papers.
35 publishers. And curiously, the last one to turn it down was another local gang, the Houghton Mifflin. And after that, Beacon said, "We may go broke, but we're going to do it." And they went broke and they did it. And so there's Daniel Ellsberg. And here are some of the notations. We don't have time to go into the whole story, but the fact was, after the information was leaked, it went to the newspapers, the Washington Post and the New York Times, in small parts. But they wanted to print the entire thing, and nobody would do it. And Beacon Press said, "Yes, we'll do it." They were in the red for some time after that, but luckily the Unitarian Church bailed them out. This, by the way, I had the opportunity before they passed away to do interviews with the guy who was the publisher, the head of Beacon Press, Gobin Stair at the time in the upper left, and his administrative assistant, Burnell O'Brien. And he was telling about what nerve it took to do that and how the Nixon administration really tried to prevent them from doing it because they didn't want it printed. And Gobin lived down in Kingston. And one night they were at home, and we're talking about telephones, you know, the big ones on the stand, whatever. There's no phone machines. And the phone rings. His wife picks it up, and she goes, "Gobin, it's Nixon." And he tried to talk him out of it, and Gobin Stair said no. And then the Secret Service kept hovering around because they were trying to nail Beacon Press for the longest time for doing this and trying to find something illegal they'd done. But they had done nothing illegal by doing this. And the Secret Service was hanging around, and then one day they came in and said they wanted to see Gobin. So Burnell came in and said, and she knew that Gobin wasn't ready for this, and that if they came in, he wanted to have all the staff and all their lawyers there. And she said, "He's not available right now, but why don't you go visit the Old North Church?" And so they all went down to the Old North Church, hung out, came back, and had their meeting. The books were published, History in Boston. Okay, ready, guys? Okay, I think it's you guys. Many books by Boston area authors, or with Boston as their setting, have been made into movies. Over the past 20 years, what local author has had more of her novels adapted to the big screen. Lauren, you can't raise your hand. Novels adapted to the big screen than any other. I hear you mumbling, I heard the name. Shh.
Can we have a lifeline?
Oh, I don't believe it.
Well, don't.
Oh, I think you've got to.
We want the enthusiastic answer.
But they want the
I'm
enthusiastic.
Sorry.
Dennis Lehane.
Oh, okay. Thank you. We thought it might be him, but we weren't sure. Thank you.
How many of you knew this? Or how many of you kind of thought this? Absolutely. And the problem with Dennis Lehane is that he just moved. I bet he'll be back. But he's been here all along selling these things to Hollywood, but he got so big that now he's writing Hollywood scripts, and they were kind of going back and forth, and now he and his family have officially moved to LA as of this past year, but he swears he's coming back, and his heart is here. Okay, there's Dennis Lehane. Okay, you ready, guys? We're nearing the end here. Margaret Sanger, back there, was an internationally known abortion rights activist depicted at the Old South Meeting House in a statue wearing a gag. That's her. In what best-selling book by Harvard history professor Jill Lepore does Sanger play an integral role?
Could we have a lifeline, please?
Okay. You're lucky you have these two.
Yes.
Either or.
Wonder Woman.
The Secret History of Wonder Woman. Okay?
Yes.
If you have not heard of this book, I'm sorry. Flew. Yes. I love that. Okay, have you guys read it? Do you want to tell a little about it? This is an awesome book, guys. This is an awesome book. It's only been out like for 6 months, right?
I read the short account in the New Yorker and I actually heard her speak.
Okay.
And it's about the history of the comic book character, Wonder Woman. And the guy who created it had sort of a menage a trois. And I'm not sure Margaret was actually part of it, but she was a friend.
Okay, the guy who wrote Wonder Woman and who was an ardent feminist who lived with his wife and his lover and all of their children. I'm not sure that's feminist, but hey. His name was William Moulton Marston, and his lover Olive's aunt was Margaret Sanger.
That's right.
And was a strong feminist, and the greatness of Wonder Woman.
Yeah. And then the feminists of the 70s incorporated Wonder Woman.
Right.
And
Ms. Magazine immediately took her, and Gloria Steinem, who just turned 81. Gloria Steinem used her on I think it was the first cover, or a very, very early cover of Ms. So she has been a feminist symbol for a long time. Can we have the score before we do the final sudden death?
These guys both got 5 this round, so that takes the Frogpondian at 11, and these guys at, 16.
At 16. Okay. Does anyone have a pen that I can borrow? I just needed to check this off. Okay. Anyway, I highly recommend this book. It's both very humorous and very telling and wonderful. And there's Jill Lepore, who's, if you ever get to see her speak, yes?
The original question again, please.
Oh, the original question was, hold on.
About Margaret Sanger.
Margaret Sanger was a birth control activist who spoke at the Old South and is gagged in the back. And I actually, there she is. Okay, I was going to get to that. So there she is, demonstrating publicly that she was not allowed to speak out loud about birth control and was always being held back. And then this is the prototype of the statue we have in the back, because the Old South stands for freedom of speech. Yes?
I think she didn't speak here because she was prohibited to gag, but someone else read her speech.
She appeared on stage gagged, and was it Arthur Schlesinger Sr. spoke for her. Thank you. I knew. Yep. Yes. On the mic.
Wasn't she allowed to speak at the Ford Forum?
I can't answer that. I don't know for sure.
Ask for a lifeline.
Okay, guys. This is it. This is what? Yes. Okay. That's good because we only have one question. Okay, all right, so this is our sudden death. Basically, Ilsa's going to help me. This is going to be a series of 9 possible answers, as many as you can get. We're going to watch the hands and do 1, 2, 1, 2 as we see the hands, okay? All right, so raise your hand if you can answer any of them. It's 9 things, just wide open. Let's do it without lifelines. Just you get it or you don't. Here we go. During the first decade of the 20th century, Old South Meeting House was smack dab in the middle of Newspaper Row. 1 point each for the name of any of the dailies that existed within a few blocks of the Meeting House during this period. As many as you can say.
Boston Transcript.
Transcript.
Boston Post.
Post.
Boston Globe.
Globe.
That's it for me.
Okay. Henry David.
Boston Examiner?
No.
Good.
Record American?
Record, yes.
Herald?
Herald.
Chronicle?
No.
Does he lose a point for that?
No. Anybody else? Anyone in the audience? Okay. The what? Traveler, yes. The Traveler? Anyone else? The Advertiser, the American, and the Journal. Okay? 100 years ago, or at the turn of the last century, every single one of those was in 3 blocks of here, okay, and every single one was a daily. Can you believe that? Wow. Wow. Okay, do we have a final tally?
The Beantown Book Battalion, or the Triple B, has 19 points after that final round, and the Frog-Pondians got 2 points in that, so they have 13.
So the winner is just about everybody. Congratulations. I want to thank again this amazing panel tonight. Let's give them another round of applause.
And thank you all. You guys are great. We would have gone down in flames.
Wally's Cafe?
You're saying Wally's Cafe?
Yes!
Excellent.